All right, everyone, I'm Kaminski. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today on Connor Composes, we are doing something really fun, something I'm absolutely loving and I have been loving doing for like the past 3 or 4 years, and that is adding orchestra to the prog metal instrumental guitar thing that we all know and love. And I'm going to show you how I do it today. We're going to build something from scratch, and I'm going to be doing it with the amazing Spitfire Symphony Orchestra. Absolutely huge 360 gigabyte beast of an instrument library. So not only I'm going to be writing something on camera as usual, I'm going to show you how the orchestra works. If you've never ever used an orchestra before, I'm going to show you how easy it is to get into something like this. Somewhere good to start would be the Discover edition of like this library, which is completely free. That way you can just get stuck into messing around with the sounds. That's exactly what I did when I started writing for my album. I got the BBC Discover version. This version from the Spitfire Symphony Orchestra is insane. So I would really recommend downloading it. I'll leave a link to Spitfire's website below if you want to check it out. I'm so excited to get into this and write something cool today. Let's dive right in. So the way that I like to set up Logic templates, usually when I've got orchestra, is to have all of the metal-y things going to an instrument bus with a G-bus compressor, the usual stuff, right? So the orchestra is actually going to go to a separate orchestra bus, like in parallel or like adjacent to rather. So the instrument bus is here, we've got this orchestra bus which is going to have its own processing, and then they're going to come together at the end with like Flatline, Gullfoss, God Particle, and like get mastered together. I've got individual strings all on performance patches here. They're all in a track stack. Same with woodwind. We've got an ensemble with the core techniques. I've got a piccolo just in case I want to do like any rips or falls or something. And I've got a contrabassoon. So there's other things I could be pulling up from here. There's obviously, if I just quickly show you the plugin, so like an insane amount of things. So this is just in the technique collections for the symphonic woodwinds. So we've got all these different instruments that we can pull from. So I've got an ensemble patch up here, which you'll find in your curated ensembles folder. I was like, I've never messed with a contrabassoon before, so let's see what that sounds like. So we might try and use it today. Now we've got the brass bus, and I've been absolutely blown away with how good this brass sounds. I've always shied away from using brass in the past. I've been listening to more and more scores and soundtracks, and I've been really recognizing and appreciating how much heavy lifting brass can do, but in more of a dark way. I've basically got the motif brass, which is essentially like a really sick melodic way to use your brass. You can do it with the trombones, trumpets, and the horns. And then we've got a selection of some of my favorite tuned percussion. So Celeste, just loved Celeste always. Glock, timpani, which is like the tuned drums, and then we've got a harp, and then we've got low drums, and these things sound incredible. So I'm going to try and find a way to use these. So let me just give you a quick blast on some of these patches so you can hear this orchestra, and then I'm going to play you this idea that I accidentally kind of wrote yesterday, but it was too good not to record. So I'm going to run with it today. So this is V1, so your first violins, and then this is the performance patch. Oh, we need to adjust the camera because we're a little bit further back now. Right. So yeah, I mean, it's so expressive. I'd really recommend having a MIDI controller set up where you've got sliders like this. I think wheels and stuff, it's not going to cut it for this kind of thing. This is the ensemble patch, so now you're going to be able to play more than one note. So let's play like one of my favorite chords on keyboard, which I don't know what it is, but it sounds like this. Motif horns. So I came up with this, so let's take a listen to this. So this is the idea, and just as like a really quick proof of concept, I just did like a basic idea of what the drums could do. You get the idea. So this is what we're going to do now. I'm going to track this intro, get some guitars in, get some bass in, get some drums in, and then we're going to go crazy with the orchestra. So let's do this. think I rushed that one. Yeah, sweet. So we're done with the bass. It's so important to pin down that A flat because we're gonna have so many moving parts today with the orchestra. Yeah, so now I think I'm just gonna do we do some sort of little drum hit, not on the GGD kit, but on the orchestra. So now we've got the old classic foundation of bass, two guitars. So if we get those balanced, now we know like orchestra levels, how loud things need to be. So the thing I think you can do more when you've got like a massive orchestra that's going to be coming in, your guitars can actually be a tiny bit quieter than you might normally do for like a riff. When you get to this point, like you've got a riff or you've got an intro or something, this is the thing with, I think that can sometimes be more difficult when you're adding orchestra to metal or prog or progressive music, whatever, is it's already quite full, right? Like you could definitely just leave it at that and it would be pretty fine. But we're not gonna do that. We're gonna build a lot more interest. So we've got this intro. So how do we build out like more of an ambient intro? What I'm doing here is I'm just trying to think of what I'm hearing. If you're ever unsure, I would recommend listening to like various soundtracks. Let me give you a good recommendation. I'll play you like 2 seconds of this track. Even in that, you can hear you've got super low brass, and then in between that, you've got shum-bum-bum-bum on strings, which is like more staccato. So you've got like this trade-off between brass, shum-bum-bum-bum, brass. Just by listening to soundtracks like that with a really critical ear, even if you're not sure, like, oh, I don't know what articulation that is, it's just gonna give you ideas of what you can try. So this is the thing, like, I always get to this position, I do say like, it is a bit overwhelming because you're like, what do I do first? But I think if you just make a dent, and a good thing is, I know that I want like a bit of a drum hit somewhere. So we're gonna see, because honestly, sometimes just playing. The other thing I know that I wanna do is a timp roll. Stretch it out all the way. And this is the cool thing you can do with MIDI, right? So obviously that right now is just gonna be like, which is not what we want. So if I click record, and now I'm gonna drag my 2 sliders. See how much better that is? That's it. So let's go to the strings now. Ooh. Maybe do cello effects as well and just chuck it down here actually. Now I want harmonics on my V1s. So specifically harmonics. So we'll go, pretty sure it should be in chord techniques. I would say so anyways. Yeah, long harmonics. So long harmonics sound like this. I just want to throw out that, like, rather than loading these up individually, so you basically would create a note here, just you can do it before, you can do it as the thing plays, but in this case it's a bit more fluid, so it doesn't matter the velocity, and you're obviously not going to hear it, but as long as it's like that long. So now I've got my V1s as core techniques here, and then I've got my V1s as deck tech. So basically, if any of you have ever used the Submission audio-based libraries, it's the same as that, essentially. You've got articulation triggers down here. If you do command click, it'll literally only have effects. So now you can see I've only got 4.2 megabytes of files loaded, just because it's literally those effects files. If I come in later and I'm like, oh, you know what? I really want me tremolo sul pont, then I can come in, load it up, put the hotkey down, do what I need to do, and then, yeah. So tremolo, of course, you get this sort of effect going on. think I just need to be a bit careful with how realistic you want this to be, because obviously we've got these two effects lines. Violas could be doing something. Maybe we do no. Core tech on basses. Might get this contra bassoon doing something sick. I'm just having fun. So maybe we do. So this is the thing, once you start to get your parts together of like this bum, 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 you can start to like translate them to other instruments. So I want that an octave lower. All right, we are back. And I tried a little something off camera really quick just to kind of put together these strings. Didn't work. It sounds good, but I think I have a better idea. So I had this. It sounds beautiful. Ah, that sounds very good. In context, it's not quite right. What I want to do instead is carry on this motif that I have. I think I want the bigger chords on brass, like the bigger swell things. I think I just like the motif on strings. I think I'm gonna have to reinforce it with woodwinds to kind of like really punch through a little bit more in the mid-range. So what I might do here is two brass ensembles and have like a lower and a higher, because I'm pretty sure like it'll target the correct families, if that makes sense. I could go in and do this manually, by all means, sort of like how I've done the strings, but just to show you how easy it is, if I duplicate this and call this like brass ensemble, brass ensemble high, brass ensemble low. And then boom, the next note will come along. All right, so I could essentially copy this. Okay, cool. That is what we want. Okay, it's not quite like that. Wait. Oh, that's the wrong slider, bro. There we go. So, and then. That sounds insane. Home stretch, I'm sure, I think. Oh, we'll find out. Okay, so now that I've played the best heart part you've ever heard in your entire life. On the Glock as well. Okay, so let's see if we can do a little bit more in the intro. I think we could just play a part in here, like to match the rest of it. So like, Was that right to play that note at the end? I don't think so. I should have just left it. Ooh, timpani roll, hang on. We can put the piccolo up. Oh, is piccolo gonna play that? Oh, I don't know, man. Let's find out. Yes, it is. I love a piccolo part. Drums, general mix. I'll show you what I do with the orchestra. Maybe I could just do huge open hi-hats like Octavarium or something. Man, could Logic repeat correctly for once? Okay, drums done. This is just a little balancing now. So we've got, so the first thing we're gonna do, right, take my orchestra, play the biggest part. Always go for the biggest part. So first thing I'm gonna do is throw it through a multi-band compressor, just a mix bus compressor. API is something I've always loved to throw on the orchestra bus. I might go soft and normal for this. I'm gonna do fairly normal settings, but the ratio, I'll probably do 2:1 rather than like 4:1 or something. So what you might find is your orchestra might be too quiet, your instrument bus might be too loud. But we don't want to go turning drums down, because if, I always say this, your drums are hitting your mix bus, oh wow, instrument bus in this case, very specifically, right? If I turn my drums down, the effect that the G bus has on the drums, which is what I love, is not going to be doing the thing, okay? So what you've got to do is consider getting the balance right between your bass, guitars, and your drums. Wow. Turning it all down, but not before the G bus, after the G bus. So I'm going to turn these on, and now we're just going to listen to the instrument bus. Now a dB can go a long way here, so just maybe start with a dB, and then we'll bring the orchestra back in. That's feeling a lot better. The snare was just a little bit too loud last time. Let's see how this sounds with the master bus, and if it's sounding good, I think we're done. I think we're done. I'm just gonna say I've had so much fun today filming this one. But yeah, anyway, right, enough of me waffling. Let's listen to this thing. Okay, here we go. CPU, please. That is sounding absolutely beautiful. I love orchestra so much. Think about what we started with today. Literally the most simple guitar part ever, possibly ever. You can build so much like emotion from like that little intro. The intro is so cool. I love that little build with the effects strings going. But yeah, let me know if you've enjoyed this week of Corner Composers. Thank you so much, Spitfire, for sponsoring this episode. It's the first time I've ever done a sponsored video with them, and I just want to say a massive thank you for trusting me to be able to showcase this absolutely amazing, beautiful orchestra to all of you. And once again, if you're interested in orchestra and all of that good stuff, links in the description, mate. You know where to go. All right, I'm gonna love you and leave you all. I'll see you next week. See you in a bit, guys.